Voila!
That is kind of cheesy, isn't it? For today's video, I want to talk to you guys about the differences between fine jewelry and fashion jewelry. And if you know this already, still watch the video because you might learn more than what you already know. If you have not subscribed to My First Luxury yet, go subscribe to our channel right now to not miss out on any videos that we're making about all things luxury. Let's get started. I'm so excited to be talking to you guys about jewelry this week because as you guys have seen in previous episodes, I made a lot of videos around the topics of designer handbags. I am definitely one of those who love handbags like many other women in the world. Today, I want to talk about jewelry. And I don't think I appreciated jewelry as much as I did before in the recent 2 years. I had a different point of view for fine jewelries, so I really want to break them down for you. I think the biggest part when it comes down to difference between fine jewelry and custom jewelry is really quality. Pretty much contains everything that I want to talk about, but I do want to break it down because every detail contributes towards the overall quality. So first of all, let's talk about fashion jewelry. Most of the fashion jewelry, there are different categories. There are different levels of custom jewelry that a lot of businesses choose to make, and obviously depending on how much gold or what the process they choose to use, every jewelry kind of holds differently. Overall, in general, fashion jewelry or custom jewelry is either gold plated or they use gold-filled material, or it's basically a process of, having a base metal that's either steel or brass, which are very commonly used in these jewelry. And process is to dip those jewelry into gold so that it has the appearance of a piece of like polished fine jewelry. However, the quality is very different when compared to fine jewelry, which I will get into. But to finish up with custom jewelry, they are more trendy. The price point is a lot less. It's overturned much faster because it usually portrays a trend or it jumps onto a trend of something. That's why prices are set to be very, very low. But I am a jewelry lover myself, so I am definitely guilty of buying a lot of those, especially in my kind of teenage years. I think every girl kind of goes through this phase of just buying more than what you need, or maybe if you're not one of them, good for you, because I had to learn my lesson of over shopping because I definitely over shopped before, and it wasn't a good feeling because at the end of the day I really didn't get to wear a lot of them, and for the most part, after maybe a year or two, these styles are pretty much pushed out by new styles, and then you can no longer wear them. It became kind of like a burden that you have to either donate them or put them away, or else it's very space consuming that you have to find places for them. And for the longer that you don't wear, the faster it's gonna tarnish and it's gonna change color, so it kind of just loses its characteristics. So that's kind of like the downside for fashion jewelry. A lot of us were probably intimidated to buy in the beginning because, first of all, the price is really high compared to some of the fashion jewelry. And like I said, this is kind of in an overall perspective because there are so many different categories of fashion jewelry. It really depends on what you choose. I'm still in love with some of the kind of the better quality custom jewelry nowadays. I still own several pieces of them compared to fast fashion grade of custom jewelry, or if you call it accessories. So overall, fine jewelry's price is usually higher. It's double, sometimes triple the price, or even more. So the prices are a lot higher. Because we are aware of these prices, we immediately think this is not something that is within my price point, therefore I'm not going to get it. That's why I'm making these videos, is to put it in perspective for you guys to understand and see the real differences between these goods and then you can make the best decision for yourself. I've been there, I've done it, and now if I could go back, I definitely would know how to invest my money better. So like I said, everything pretty much all comes down to one big category, which is quality. And I am going to be talking about these in several different categories just so that we can see the comparisons, because I do have comparison videos for you on the jewelry that I own, and then I compare the two. One is fine jewelry, one is just fashion jewelry, and you can kind of really see the differences. I want to really break it down to 4 other categories, which is craftsmanship, it is material, and color, and also price. And lastly, maybe I will add in a little bit of the longevity, because it does play a very important part. So first is craftsmanship. I do want to show you guys a comparison right now that shows you pretty much the same style ring that I have. One is purchased from Etsy and the other one is made by my jeweler. So you can kind of see the differences between the craftsmanship of these 2 rings. So I have listed here both rings. I place them right next to each other so you can kind of see the close-up details between these 2 pieces. It's kind of a fair comparison as they're very similar. They're pretty much the same ring. If I were to give you this angle of view, besides that the beads are a little bit different size. I am laying them right next to each other, and you can see now the differences between the 2. First of all, you can see that the inside of this fine jewelry, at least a quarter of it was cut out. So when it fits on your, demonstrating right now, when it fits on your hand, it's so much more sleek and fit to the point, versus the other one. I am gonna do a close-up now, and you can see that the design, the structure of this ring is pretty much a bunch of beads kind of all melted together. And if I were to switch over to this one, you can see it's a lot more nicely made, and obviously it's been worn, so right now it has signs of wearing on there. With the fine jewelry piece, you can see the craftsmanship on that is a lot more well engineered, I would say. Like, you would actually think about the end result of the design of the piece once somebody puts it on the finger. Whoever designed this piece is thinking about how comfortable it's going to be fitting on somebody's hand versus just the look of it. And if you compare it with the other one, you can definitely see that the other ring is just, a bunch of shapes that is kind of melted together, and there was even an area where it wasn't perfectly put together where they close the ring. That is very, very important. I think I will make an in-depth video about craftsmanship, because with designer brands, that's exactly one of the huge reasons why they're selling jewelry that is in much higher price than some of the other non-designer jewelry. And I'm not saying the non-designer brands are bad jewelry maker or they don't know what they're doing. That's not what I'm saying, but I want to kind of highlight the differences that I notice about why these designer jewelry is worth the point. So be on the lookout for that one as well. And the next point is really the material. And for the rose gold ring, that is actually made with 18 karat rose gold. For the fashion jewelry, it's just gold plated. When I bought it, that's what it says in the description. So I'm just gonna take that and run with it. Characteristic with gold is that it's actually very soft, but with gold, it's a lot softer when compared to like stainless steel. That's why it's so much more sturdier. You will see a lot more scratches on actual gold jewelry. And then the other one is plated. So like I mentioned earlier, it usually is a base material that is dipped over gold or that is filled with gold. Those two can have different outcomes, but this one is actually just gold plated. which means it has several coats of gold alloy on top of this base material. So in the close-up, you can probably see some of the chip on the ring, and that is from just when you're wearing your rings stacked on top of each other. When it rubs against each other, materials does come off. That is kind of like another downside. It does not last for a very long time. And the next thing is really to see the colors. The colors between these two pieces of jewelry is also kind of obvious, and I have worn both of them the similar amount of periods. I did get the gold-plated one first and wore it for, you know, very consistently for a year, over a year, 2 years, and several years later I decided to invest in another, you know, fine jewelry version of it because I did see it from my jeweler and he did such an excellent job. I was like, it's so beautiful, it will go well and pairs with my other designer jewelry. So I decided to get it, and you know, the color really didn't change that much and it held up very, very well compared to the fashion jewelry. It really depends on like what they put into the material. You will really see the difference between the two. And with color, another thing is the rose gold or the gold is actually a mixed alloys combined together, and there are different proportions of alloys that are being mixed. So for example, maybe, you know, brand A makes rose gold with white gold with 10% of white gold, 20% of kind of yellow gold, and then 30% of copper. That's what made up this rose gold material. That rose gold tone can come off to be very different compared to another brand which tweak the proportion of different materials that is added in there. So every brand, ultimately every batch of jewelry, if the proportions are made different, can come out to be very, very different in the appearance of color. So with those two, you definitely can see a drastic color difference between, you know, a gold-plated jewelry and a fine jewelry that is rose gold. I did get them originally in the same color, which are rose gold, but you can now see the real differences between the two. The next category is really price, and like I mentioned, we are kind of all very subjective, and when we look at a number that is, you know, that is labeled as a price tag, we obviously think whether or not we can afford something. And I believe that we can all afford something that is $10-$20 if you are, you know, a person that loves fashion, if you're into styles. You definitely wouldn't mind spending a $10-$20 on a piece of accessories, right? And then with fine jewelry, usually the prices are marked at a much higher mark. So for example, that ring, I paid at least $350 for it. And people are just like, you know, with $350, I can get a variety of styles of accessories or jewelry that I like for less than $350. So if you buy 10 versus buying one, obviously most of us would go for buying the 10 piece because you get a lot more style and you can just get a lot more use out of that. However, that was my old mindset as well, and after I have learned and gotten to know all of these fine jewelry, I do think that making an investment piece is definitely the better decision. Reason why is a piece of invested jewelry, you can have the same look. Definitely buy the right one, right? Buy something that you think you will get a lot of use out of. Don't buy something that is kind of temporary and that will go out of style. And the same rule applies for anything luxury or designer. So when it comes down to pricing, don't get tricked by the numbers. First, think about whether or not you want to own this jewelry for longer periods of time. Like, I do have other pieces where I strictly just wear them for the sake of styling with the clothes that I have. And then for the ring, I usually am pretty stable with things that I wear because I don't like to change it out, and I think wearing something that always represents your style is more important than sometimes switching it up way too often. I do enjoy the fun of styling with different pieces, but I have my, you know, my base pieces that I basically wear every day and I wear very often. So I do think in this case, if I think it happened in the right order because I got the cheaper one on Etsy and it's gold plated and I love the look of it. However, the fact that it didn't hold up really made me regret buying it. I thought about buying another one, but at the same time, I compared it with invested into a fine piece of jewelry that is a little bit more expensive, but over the years nothing drastic is going to change, and I can always bring it back for a polish, which can make it look newer and shinier and like new again. So for the second time, I made the decision to buy the fine jewelry. And the important thing here is to remember to not be intimidated by the price first, and in fact think about whether or not you really will wear this for a very, very long time. Long run is always better than short run.
Longevity.
What? I just want to make sure. And the last part is really the longevity. At the end of the day, it is something that you either buy and then wear and then put it aside, or it's something that you buy and wear and continue to wear. So the differences between the two really is kind of big, because you're spending money on something that will either bring you shorter time of happiness, or if you're buying something that you can always enjoy and eventually you can even pass it on to next generation. And we are talking about this long of longevity when you're buying anything that is more expensive. So keep that in mind and don't always think short term. It's kind of like investment, even though I don't know too much about investment, but I think the golden rule that plays by all people who are investors is to think whether or not this is worth the long term, or if it's gonna make the money worth it in the long term. So yeah, that is it that I wanted to share with you guys today. I think this video could be helpful for some of us who haven't gone into buying fine jewelry. Are you going to be continue buying some of the fashion jewelry, or you're going to be stop buying what you're going to buy next day and maybe look into a better option that could last you a little bit longer? Or you can be 50-50. I really want to know your opinion, so please let me know what your thoughts are after seeing this video. For myself, I think I definitely was a fashion jewelry buyer, and I kind of transitioned into buying fine jewelry after learning all of this information that I know today. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go subscribe to our channel right now and turn on the notifications to not miss out on any videos. And I personally kind of have missed on some of the other channels that I subscribed, so if you have not turned on that bell yet, make sure you turn it on right now. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment below. I am excited for next week's to come so I can share more videos with you. So for now, just take care and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.